Ely and Kings Lynn. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Another day, another Starmer. This time, he blames me and Brexit for the Channel crossings. No, really, we'll talk about that. Ed Miliband, in full flow, earlier on today, wants to ban fracking forever. We'll discuss tactically and strategically whether that makes any sense. And I told you, support for digital ID would start to fall very, very quickly. Got some fresh polling that may surprise some of you. Before that and much more, let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Nigel, thank you, and a very good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock. Well, the top story tonight, French police have raided and destroyed a migrant warehouse in Calais, filmed just weeks ago by the team here at GB News. The so-called Orange Squat was home to more than 100 young Sudanese men and had become a flashpoint for violence near the French port. It comes as Channel crossings this year have now passed 34,000. That's just 2,000 short of the entire total for last year. At the weekend, nearly 1,300 migrants made the journey, including a record 125 on a single boat. The Home Secretary says the crossings are utterly unacceptable and the removals have now begun. A Rochdale grooming gang has been jailed for a total of 174 years. The group's ringleader, Mohammed Zaid, a father of 3, was sentenced to 35 years for raping 2 schoolgirls. He was tempting the young girls and luring them with free underwear, money, alcohol and food, treating them as sex slaves from the age of just 13. He was one of 7 men convicted in June of sexual offences committed between 2001 and 2006. Well, earlier today, speaking on behalf of the victims, Representative Ruth Spencer.
I'm reading these statements on behalf of the 2 victims who have bravely supported this case. Girl A. My childhood was taken away from me by these men. I should have been out with friends, playing in parks and being innocent, hanging around on the streets, enjoying my childhood and creating memories I would be able to cherish and look back at as an adult. However, my life was far from that due to these men. This has been and still is consuming my life. I hope that one day I will be able to move forward with my life. The jury, finding these 5 men guilty, I hope is going to help me take another step forward to get my life back, as I have already lost my childhood to these men.
Well, breaking news in the last few minutes. Israel may soon intercept an aid flotilla making its way to Gaza. We can bring you live pictures now on board where Greta Thunberg, Barcelona's former mayor, and Nelson Mandela's grandson are among those making their way to Gaza. Organisers say one vessel has already been circled by an Israeli warship as that flotilla pushes towards the territory tonight. It comes, of course, during a week of intense diplomacy, with the world awaiting Hamas's response to Donald Trump's peace plan. We'll keep across the developments for you as that story develops. Here, a company linked to Tory peer Michelle Mone has been ordered to repay the government £122 million after breaching a COVID contract for surgical gowns. The High Court says the firm, run by her husband Doug Barrowman, must return the money with interest by the 15th of October. Lady Mone recommended the company to ministers during the pandemic, securing a place on the so-called VIP lane for PPE contracts. Both she and Mr Barrowman denied wrongdoing and gave no evidence at the trial. Chancellor Rachel Reeves says the money will go back into schools, the NHS and local communities. And Apple has been ordered by the government to access the data of users in Britain. It follows a row over privacy after ministers previously sought worldwide access, a move condemned by Washington as a clear violation of American rights. Apple says it has never built a backdoor and never will. The tech giant pulled its toughest encryption tool from the UK and says it's gravely disappointed it can no longer offer it. A tribunal hearing on that dispute is set for January next year. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with a full roundup at 8. Now, though, it's over to Nigel.
Well, I must tell you, my opinion of the Prime Minister has not particularly increased today. Here he was on GB News at 6 o'clock this morning.
Returns agreement with France is important because we need to establish that if you come by boat, you will be returned to France. I accept the numbers are low. We had to prove the concept and prove that it could work. We've now done that, but now we need to ramp that up. I would gently point out to Nigel Farage and others that before we left the EU, we had a returns agreement with every country in the EU, and he told the country, make no difference if we left. Well, he was wrong about that. These are Farage boats in many senses that are coming across the channel.
So here he is, once again, inverting the truth, gaslighting the British public, attempting to blame everything on me. Yes, I am the devil, the Farage boats. Well, Prime Minister, have a quick look at this. Here's me in May 2020.
So here we are, middle of the English Channel. We're right on the edge of British and French territorial waters. It's a pretty calm day. Already there have been 3 migrant boats spotted. All of these are classed as search and rescue missions. But the truth of it is, this is a massive criminal enterprise that is organising all of this, making vast sums of money. They're doing about 4.5 knots. We're doing about 11. As you can see, they're about 300 yards, so we're closing. We'll obviously slow down because the weight from this boat's quite big. You can see the boat's absolutely packed, all being charged a minimum of €5,000 each for the criminal gangs to make this crossing.
I did that in May 2020, Prime Minister, and I warned the entire British political establishment we had a major problem coming down the tracks. I also said to mainstream media, why are you not covering this? I predicted it would lead to an invasion. Of course, I was absolutely demonised for daring to say the word, but I would suggest 180,000 people later, perhaps I was right. But what the Prime Minister is talking about is the Dublin III regulation. This was the means by which, he argues, as EU members, we could send people back. Well, in that very year of 2020, have a look at this graph, we took more in from the European Union under this programme than we sent back. So I ask you at home, is the Prime Minister being deliberately dishonest? Please send in farage@gbnews.com your thoughts. I can't bear it. Out Mehmet, chairman of Migration Watch, joins me, as does Kwasi Kwarteng and Baroness Diane Hayter. I mean, the Prime Minister did this. We saw Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. I mean, I know they all want to rejoin the EU, but it's just, I mean, I'm right, aren't I? It's nonsense.
It's total nonsense, I'm afraid. The Dublin Agreement never worked. The whole thing was a shambles, as far as we were concerned. It took a hell of a long time to get people going in either direction. And as the figures have pointed out, the last couple of years, we had something like 3, 4, 5 times more coming towards us than going in the other direction. It just, I think that this is doing is actually hiding the truth. They know this to be the case. I believe that they're trying to hide the fact we've had over 57,000 come since the 4th of July last year. Now, what is that about? Why do they keep banging on? Is it because they want to hide the fact that legal migration is actually even worse, 10 times more? I don't know. I really don't know. I think that they're misleading the British people intentionally.
Well, I do too. Dan, I mean, clearly what the Prime Minister said is just not true.
Well, no, everything's your fault, one.
Everything's my fault.
Good, as long as we start by agreeing on that.
When the economy crashes, that'll be my fault. That's my fault. That will be yours.
I'm a good guy. Look, there are a number of things to say. One is, of course, these numbers are going up across the continent. There is an increased amount and people wanting to get out of the countries that they're living in at the moment. And this is happening, across the world. And the problem we've got is that the bit that is not enforced is that they're meant to, if they want asylum, not be economic migrants, they're meant to claim in the first safe country they arrive in. And unfortunately, all the steps they come to before us, and it'll be quite a few countries before they've got to before us, or even before France, are not doing their bit of the deal. But that's where I do think our good international relations is important. We should be working on this together, yes, because this is a problem that is broader than just ours.
One of the reasons we voted Brexit.
The French have got a problem.
The
Germans have got a problem.
One of the reasons we voted Brexit was because of the idiotic statements by Angela Merkel in Germany, just welcoming millions to cross the Mediterranean. And we voted Brexit to avoid all of this, and yet we've got it, and we've got it in very, very serious numbers. One thing that is interesting, though, about people claiming asylum, what I'm told now is that quite a lot of EU countries are now kicking these people out, are just plain blank refusing them. And that's why the problems at Calais are potentially getting worse than they've been before.
Oh, they are getting worse, and they will get even worse. I agree that if we had the bottle, if we had the backbone, we could actually do a lot more than we are. Unfortunately, we don't, and we've been told very clearly any number of times that there is no question of leaving the ECHR, which we can quite easily do. It's nothing to do with going against international law. This is a convention that we've signed up to, and we can come out within 6 months given notice.
But on that, what's interesting is that two former Labour Home Secretaries, Jack Straw and David Blunkett, are in entire agreement with you. And these people weren't Tories. They were people who served at as Home Secretary under Labour.
But and even amending it, not out of fully clear.
I'm not sure.
Because
they realise there's a problem.
And I mean, for the first time today, the Prime Minister did talk about the application.
Sure.
But I think that was more of a means of kicking it down the road. But my question is, when he tries to blame me for it, says because we were in the EU, we had this wonderful policy by which we actually took more than we sent the the way. That's right. He's just being dishonest.
But the numbers were very different from what they are.
He's being dishonest.
Well, that was over one. I think that was over just boats.
That was but the point that Nigel is making is right. The Dublin Accord or whatever it was, it never worked. So I don't understand what he's talking about. The other thing I think that's a bit naughty is that, look, he's had 15 months in government. When he came in, he said he had a plan, he was going to smash the gangs. And clearly that hasn't worked because the numbers have gone up. So when you've got a plan and the numbers go up, you start blaming other people. And that's clearly what's happened. I mean, it's very obvious to me that, his plan, whatever it is, just hasn't worked.
Well, he never said he was going to do it in a year.
He said he was going to smash the gangs, but they did nothing.
But not for a year. I mean,
but they haven't even done anything.
Well, they have done quite a lot, as you know.
How have they smashed the gangs?
They've been working down the line, partly stopping them trying to get disposed in Germany and other things. These things, come on, it was your government that had this for years, and the idea that within a year you can,
but he had a plan.
He had a plan, but it wasn't for 1 year.
But he hasn't even done.
Well, he's done quite a bit.
Isn't the problem here? You know, smash the gangs. We've been hearing for decades, we're going to smash the drugs gangs. We're going to drive drugs off the streets of the United Kingdom. It hasn't happened. No. And frankly, the money involved is just so great that even if you put them all in prison for life, more people will volunteer. And I sense it's the same with this. But another question. There must be, I mean, this issue hurt the Conservatives enormously. There must be a lot of Labour MPs. And we're seeing more and more hotels opening, not fewer, more and more hotels. The houses of multiple occupancy are opening up all over the country. There must be enormous pressure within the Labour Party on the Prime Minister to do more.
Oh, well, of course there is. And what is happening is that the number of hotels, I'm not sure what you're saying, they're going up, but last I looked at, they're going down, and the numbers in them are going down. So maybe they're using smaller...
They were much higher under the Conservatives with 18 months to go before the election.
But then they started...
But then they went down. The number of hotels since Labour won the election is up a bit.
But they're now closing. But we can't close them without putting people somewhere else, and you've got to make sure that there is something else. I gather, we might be using pod things or something like that. You can't literally just close a hotel and put people out on the street in tents. It has to be planned.
You can always deport them, couldn't you?
Well, you can, and we will be doing that, and we already have done. I think it was 36,000 went out just recently.
Yeah, but they are they're visa overstayers. It's slightly different.
But what we've got to do is get these through quickly. I think I've said on this programme before. We shouldn't be giving people the time to make a second appeal or to appeal and have an in-person hearing. There are things we can do to get it done quickly, and then away.
But none of the policies are promoting what you say. I mean, the one in, one out. I mean, that got snared up in the courts on day one.
But we're trying it out, and I think it will work.
But one in, one out. Hang on, one in, one out means if one person comes to the country, they go back, another one comes. It's still +1, whichever way you cut it.
This is a way of working with the French to make sure we set up.
Well, it's not working very well, is it?
Come on,
one in, one out.
We're still losing. What me said was that it would go to the courts, and that would be a problem, and that's exactly what happened.
In your view, you've been studying this, you've worked professionally on this 4 years. You made the point about legal migration. We got the figures, didn't we? The 23-24 figures, population increase of another 750,000, 98% immigration.
Exactly.
Do we have any idea what legal immigration's running at now? Any clue at all?
The last we heard, it was 431,000 net migration a year. I suspect it may be a little more than that, but that's huge, absolutely huge. Yeah. And what we're talking about now is not dealing with the problem, it's managing the problem. The government has said absolutely nothing about reducing net migration or indeed about dealing and stopping the illegal flow of people from across the Channel. My own belief is that perhaps the government has actually given up on their usual, normal voters, the Labour voters who would otherwise have voted for the Labour Party, are now turning to reform. That's what's bugging the government. If they can only deal with that by coming up with realistic policies.
But Starmer says, look, we've deported 36,000 people since we came to power, but they're not those crossing the Channel, are they?
They're not those crossing. It's just a fraction who are crossing the Channel, and even then, it's people like Indians or whatever. It's the easy ones. They are not deterring anyone, and they're not sending anyone back or onward to the sort of countries where our courts say we can't send them back to.
Final thought on this from you, Alp. We've given the French, as I understand it, about £800 million since 2014. And, our viewers are very angry that the French don't do more. But the French say it's our fault. I have a funny feeling the French are right. In a way.
Unquestionably, we are a huge magnet for a lot of people. But the other problem, I think, is that the moment anyone says asylum, we pretty much accept their word for it, even though they haven't got anything to prove who they are, where they're from, and what their intentions are. That is wrong. That is dangerous.
Just the use of that word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Al, thank you very much indeed. My regular panel staying with me. In a moment, we're going to look at Ed Miliband, who wants to ban fracking forever. Surely, that can't make any sense.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some of your thoughts on the Prime Minister claiming that actually we'd been better off inside the European Union when it came to dealing with the Channel. Andy says, I don't think the Prime Minister is being dishonest, Nigel. The matter of the fact is, before we left the EU, there were no small boats. Then we left, and it's been a problem ever since. Not quite true, actually. The small boats began in 2018, but it wasn't until 2020 they started coming in any real numbers. Prior to that, many, many people were coming illegally, frankly, in the back of lorries. And what happened was much of the money we sent to France was used to put massive fencing up around the ferry ports. Gus says, I think you may be wrong here, Nigel. At least the Dublin Convention let us deport some people. Now we deport 0. Yeah, all right, so if we deport 10 and take 15 back, how's that a win? Sorry, don't agree. Molly says, EU countries now won't accept people back from each other, so the Dublin Agreement is not working for the EU either. Well, I think the truth of it is the Dublin Agreement just never worked. Now, last day of the Labour conference, but they didn't all go home. Many of them stayed to listen to Ed Miliband.
Tories tried to overturn the fracking ban.
led by Jacob Rees-Mogg. Remember him? We sent those frackers packing. I say let's ban fracking and vow to send this bunch of frackers packing too.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. That was grossly embarrassing, wasn't it? Even the Labour Baroness can barely conceal how awkward and ghastly that was. But forgetting that, what he's basically saying is he intends to pass legislation within the next year that would ban fracking forever. I put it to you, folks, that strategically, for a nation, and particularly at a time when you never know what might happen on the international scene, that would be just an extraordinary act of self-harm. Well, Francis Egan is CEO of Quadrilla Resources, speaks to me from Manchester. They just don't want this, Francis, do they?
Well, I have to say, the UK energy market is in chaos. Our electricity prices are roughly 3 to 4 times what the United States is paying. Our domestic electricity prices are the highest in the developed world. We spend billions of pounds a year having windmills turn off. And I listened to Ed Miliband today to understand what he was going to do about that. And the big policy idea appears to be to ban fracking. Now, fracking hasn't happened in this country since 2019. It's not likely, frankly, to happen under the Labour government. So his big policy idea to address the energy crisis we're in is to ban something that isn't actually happening. I mean, he is literally and metaphorically the Don Quixote of the Labour Party, I have to say.
That's right. And Francis, just remind our audience, you know, is it true that the drills, the sites that you've got where the holes were, have now been filled in with concrete?
Yes, we were forced by the government to fill the wells in with concrete. Fortunately, the shale gas hasn't got anywhere. It's taken a few 100 million years to develop, and I guess it'll have to wait 4 more at least until the next election, and hopefully we get a sensible party with a sensible energy policy in place.
Francis Egan, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's be joined in this debate by one of the banners-in-chief in the form of Kwasi Kwarteng.
Absolutely.
Who did his best to make sure we could not be self-sufficient in energy.
When we announced... Hang on, let's just unpack this. Let's just walk through it. When we announced the moratorium, so it wasn't a ban, it was a moratorium. Right, it was a delay. And I actually spoke to Francis, that was in 2019, and I called him up and I said, look, there's going to be a story tomorrow in the Sunday Times saying that we're going to impose this moratorium. And he had a direct interest in that, and he took it very, very well, actually, given the circumstances. But our view was that we had to have a moratorium because there was huge concern in the country, in parts of the country where it was happening, particularly in Lancashire, where you had very densely populated areas, and they were affected by the fracking. If you compare it to somewhere like Texas, you know, in Texas you've got, what, 10 people a square kilometre on average? In Lancashire it was about 500. So the effect of fracking in a place like Wyoming, where you've got 2 people a square kilometre, it's going to be very different to the effect in somewhere like Lancashire. And a government of this country has to take that into accct. You can't just frack everywhere and assume that everyone's going to be happy with that.
I wasn't suggesting we frack everywhere, but I am suggesting that strategically, moratoriums or bans on something that we could need in an emergency is a very silly thing to do.
That's why we didn't ban it, OK? That's exactly why we didn't ban it. We said we've got to have a delay. Let's try and work out where best we can do this. But I think, you know, again, I stand in the middle. I'm not where you are. You think we should frack, you know, everything. You know, sort of Aunt Doris's front lawn. You know, and he's saying we should ban it, and I'm in the middle. I say where it's appropriate, we should be able to do it.
All right. Now, I tell you what, let's take this argument on. Let's have a look at a tweet that the Prime Minister put out in the run-up to the last general election. Keir Starmer said, "My Labour government will tackle the root causes of the cost of living crisis and help families save up to £300 on their energy bills." Now, Diane, here's the thing. Since the election, the average energy bill is up at least £185, not down £300. And everything Miliband is doing is locking in more expensive energy for many, many years to come. He's potentially going to give 20-year deals to the wind farm companies. And is aiming at net zero really worth the cost?
Yeah, because we've all got children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and we've got to do some of that. We have to do it in a way that is manageable now, and that we don't take all the big hit now. But we really do have to think about the future. Can I just say about fracking? I mean, I come from a mining family in South Wales, and you know, I have no great desire for that sort of onshore mining at all. When I was born and my sister was born, you know, the first thing our father said was, "Thank God they don't need to go down the big hole." So, you know, we mustn't glorify all this stuff. And it was dangerous. We come from near Aberfan, and we saw what happened to the slag heaps. So we have to look at the environmental. And, you know, what Kwasi is saying is the environmental impact of fracking is enormous. There are two ways of bringing our cost.
Is it?
Yes.
Do you really believe it's enormous? I mean, when you look at a coal mine, as you say, the big hole with massive slag heaps and all the rest of it, when you fracked an area, it's covered. It's about the size of a tennis court.
Well, not underneath it is, because you'll be going underneath.
Sure.
As you know, there were all those sort of
With the
earthquakes
tremors.
and tremors.
And it was,
that-
and also, I mean, I got these letters, lots and lots of letters from people who were being affected by the fracking, and any government will have exactly the same problem to deal with.
I think you find the tremors were about the size of a lorry going past your house.
But
I think you'll find that the Russians spent a huge amount of money on propaganda to turn us against fracking.
I mean, the letters weren't written by Russians.
No.
They were written by
I think there were some extraordinary scare stories. Look,
But there are other ways of getting energy, and they are
What are they?
renewables. Well, there are renewables. There are offshore
but they're
stuff.
expensive.
Well, they may be in the short term, but they will pay for themselves. And the important other thing is reducing either by making houses much more energy efficient, and there are other methods.
Those are longer term.
They are longer term, but we have to do all of this. There has to be a strategy to make sure that we are using less energy, we're using it more effectively,
But actually,
and that we're producing. Where I do agree is we should be producing more that's under our control.
Let me contradict you here, and here's why. If the old industries used a huge amount of power, steel making and all those things, the new technologies use even more.
That's right. So you've got data centers
and when you think, back in January this year, there were days with the big high pressure when we were importing 25% of our electricity, and it wouldn't matter if you filled the whole of the North Sea with wind turbines. If you get a big anticyclone, it doesn't work. Diane, I understand your point of view. It's a save the environment point of view. I understand Kwasi arguing that, we don't want earth tremors or subsidence near housing.
No.
But I still very much stick to the view that as a country, we're not self-sufficient in energy, certainly not in electricity, and we're all paying an enormous price for it. Consumers, deindustrialisation, and I think
that's all
and there is a problem for consumers. We all want to consume more.
Sure.
We want our houses, we want more that's electronic, you want all the computers.
I know.
So we have this build-up of desire to use it.
But the problem is the Labour government.
But we mustn't pretend there is free energy.
But the Labour government, traditionally, not anymore, it's a middle-class party now, but traditionally, the Labour Party was there for those that were less well off in society.
And that's why we're trying to build houses that are much more energy efficient.
And forget energy efficiency right now. The fact is those on lowest incomes proportionately pay the most for their energy.
Well, the point you made...
And that's very tough for people.
No, but the point you've just made is born by the fact that I remember being in government. The people who were very sceptical about net zero because they could see the effect, particularly in some of the industries they're represented, were the unions. So you get a lot of pushback, in things like the steel industry. There is a whole debate about...
And how interesting that Sharon Graham of Unite has now called for Miliband to go. Look,
that's exactly right.
We've agreed to disagree, but the great thing about GB News, I think, I hope, I pray, is we can do it in a reasonably civilised manner. In a moment, we'll talk about the fact that 9% of criminals commit 52% of crime at a massive cost, not just financially, but to people's lives. What should we do about them?
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We've seen some pretty heavy rain around the Mediterranean this week. It's going to stay pretty wet and quite windy across Greece. Meanwhile, the rain clearing away from Italy and the Balkans. A few showers coming into the Canary Islands, the odd one close to Barcelona, but the Balearics turning drier after some thunderstorms earlier, along with the Balkans and Italy as the rain clears away here during Thursday, but setting up across Greece some heavy downpours and gusty winds through Thursday and Friday. Looking drier, though, in Santorini for the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A storm is brewing out in the Atlantic. Storm Amy will arrive on Friday night and linger into Saturday morning. In the meantime, a largely fine day to come tomorrow across the south like today, whereas further north there will again be a lot of cloud around, still producing outbreaks of rain through the night, especially in western Scotland. Those yellowy colours there suggesting the rain at times will be fairly heavy. Quite breezy here too, but with the cloud and the breeze and the rain, it will be a mild night. Further south with some breaks in the cloud. In rural spots we could dip down to single figures. Could also allow a bit of mist and fog to form for Thursday morning, but that should clear away. The rain, though, is going to linger across western Scotland. Probably not too heavy through the morning, but it will pep up again later in the day. And we do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. The rain really building up through this week. Could cause a bit of disruption, the potential for some flooding. Patchy rain across Northern Ireland initially. That is also going to turn heavier. Most of England and Wales having a cloudy but dry start. As I mentioned, maybe some mist and fog through the morning rush hour, but it should clear away. The rain is going to get heavier through Northern Ireland during the morning and then through the afternoon spread into western Scotland. So again, the potential for some disruption from that wet weather. The Moray Firth may well stay completely dry and the rain will be fairly light and patchy in Edinburgh. England and Wales by and large staying dry, brightening up too with some sunshine. We could see 21 degrees Celsius, but we'll see some rain scooting through England and Wales Thursday night and into Friday, clearing away to reveal something a bit drier for a time. But look at this. This is Storm Amy, bringing rain into the northwest later on Friday, and the winds also continuing to strengthen. A windy night Thursday night, but it gets even windier on Friday night as Storm Amy moves in. Look at the isobars. There's a number of weather warnings in place. Do check out the Met Office warning for details on that. But this storm system could cause some problems into the weekend.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So, a study by research consultancy Newton Europe and the charity Revolving Doors shows us that 29,000 repeat offenders are responsible for a huge number of crimes every year at a cost of up to £5 billion. But the cost isn't just money, is it? Now, anybody out there watching this, listening to this, who's been burgled, had their phone taken, had their bike stolen, knows there is a big emotional level of damage and fear that is caused by crime. 9% of criminals are committing 52% of known crime in this country. And what happens to them? They go to prison, they serve 30 or 40% of their sentence, they come out again, and this particular cohort are, frankly, in my view, beyond rehabilitation. What do we do with these people, Klaus?
So I think you mentioned the 30% of the time that they serve. Yeah. I think that's a complete joke. They've got to serve the full tariff. So if the judge says you're going down for 10 years, they should serve the full 10 years. And I think there's a sense in the country that we have very soft justice. Mm. And I think that's got to be corrected. And they can do it, but we just haven't.
I mean, Diane, you know, the Americans have, a massive prison population, and it's 3 strikes and you're out. It's you know, you attempt to rehabilitate with first-time offenders, but there comes a point which you're going to have to put people away for longer, aren't we?
Yeah, I have to say I disagree with you that serving the whole 10 years. You may want to give them a longer sentence.
But why say it's...
Well, let me say, if you're managing a prison, you do need people to have some incentive to behave in there. And if you... And so I...
But 30%.
That's a small, that's a small point.
So we're
but I
arguing
do
whether
think
you
it's
serve
quite
30%
important.
or 80%
But the most important thing is to catch them early. You know, I mean, I used to be a magistrate, and you know, they weren't being picked up early enough, and they weren't being dealt with early enough. There was a slightly feeling that they would stop, and instead of seeing the first couple of crimes as actually the path into more. So I do think that the early catching, getting the police to take it seriously, which is quite difficult at the moment.
But it's deeper rooted than it was, dare I say, many years ago, because you've got criminal gangs. When I hear 9% represent 50% of the crime, that says to me the 9% are pretty organised.
Yeah,
and they're organised in gangs.
No, I think that is
anecdotally,
true.
we see that in London, you know...
But they should be easier to catch in that case, because actually, once you see, and there's the front man, if you like,
Sure.
I'm sorry, we're talking about men, basically,
Yes.
Men and boys. Sorry about that.
I think we'll probably have to concede that one too.
Yeah, you will. But if you can catch the front one who's actually doing it, and then someone else tends to take it off, catch them, and then you've got the train. And that's. But
the
we
people
have to have the police
organising it
on the street.
Would you support 3 strikes and you're out?
Well, I would support that once you've got repeat offences, then obviously the amount of sentence should be longer. But the important thing is actually getting them before they get to that stage, because it's the young, and they are, I'm afraid, young boys who are being
if we can catch them
brought
early,
into it.
and if we can rehabilitate them or incentivise them, wonderful. But unfortunately, it ain't working now.
Well, I don't think that people are born evil, but you know the incentives are so high if they're getting away with it.
But once
That's
they're
the
caught,
problem.
they should be punished appropriately.
Yeah, we're going to need to build on. I tell you what, whatever we do, we're going to need a lot more prisons. Now, I'm going to talk defence for a moment, with an American context, but there's a British angle to it too. The what the Farage moment is Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary in America, saying this last night.
It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
Now, of course, everyone takes the mickey out of those comments, but does he have half a point?
I think he's 100% right.
Do you? No,
because
no more fat generals.
It doesn't. You know, if you're a soldier, you should be in peak physical condition. Similarly with the policemen, I always used to get disconcerted in the Houses of Parliament. And I'm not picking it on anyone, but they were very... I mean, you've seen it. They're very, very large, dare I say, fat policemen. You think, if I'm in trouble, this guy isn't going to help me out. You want your policeman to be able to run faster than you.
What do you think about fat generals?
I mean, it's not something that keeps me awake worrying about at night. I think some of his other comments, though, were extraordinary because, you know, he was talking about ending anything about helping diversity. We have brought women into the forces, and they have made an enormous difference.
But his point is
he wasn't talking about that, was he?
But he was getting close to it, because unless you actually say everyone should be able to be in the forces, and we should, I mean, it's good for the people who go into the forces, but it's also good for the nation that we don't turn people down. And the idea of getting rid of, again, a male thing, I'm afraid, getting rid of beards. I mean, has he got nothing else to worry about?
Well, we banned beards in the army.
We did
quite recently.
We now allow beards for reasons I don't quite understand.
Well, they used to be compulsory in the Navy. And I was brought up in the forces, and all the men had moustaches. I mean, you know, if you can fly a plane, that seems to me rather more important than whether you've got a moustache or not.
A quick final thought, because we cover so many subjects in this hour. But he's now saying, Kwasi, that no longer is this going to be the Department of Defence. Yeah. It's going to be the Department of War.
Yes, I think that's quite controversial. I don't see the point of changing. I mean, we had a War Office that we changed into the Ministry of Defence many, many years ago. I don't think it makes that much difference. I don't see why they would.
It's quite serious, though, because NATO is based on defence. And, you know, I think it's extraordinary that this, you know, where Trump was very against getting involved in wars. It's a very mixed message.
But
NATO is about defence.
No, but what he is saying is psychologically, by naming it war, we're ready for war. We don't encourage war or want war. And yes, Trump is a peacemaker.
But we know we went through this. We had a War Office for reasons I think that you've kind of delineated. We call it now the Ministry of Defence. And I don't have a problem with that.
Well, maybe that is, not as big a point as I thought. But I have to say, when it comes to, and you mentioned women, point is, if they're equally as strong and equally as fit as men to be in the front line, then it's fine.
And many of them are.
And they have to be. That's fine.
They are flying and doing all sorts of things.
All he's saying is they have standards. All he's saying is keep the same standards.
Yeah, I agree. But that's the point about the fat generals. I mean, they're not going to. If they can meet the physical standards.
It's not the general I want. I want a squatty-looking.
If they can meet the physical standards, then that's great.
If Pete Hegseth gets his way, there's no more regimental port in the messes anymore. In a moment, let's talk about digital ID. I've been predicting all week that the Prime Minister was going to have bigger trouble on this than his majority would suggest. We'll get some fresh polling in just a moment.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, I thought support for digital ID would not be quite as popular as the Prime Minister thinks. I'm joined live down the line by Luke Trill, UK Director of More in Common. Luke, what is the polling on digital ID telling us?
Well, when we polled on digital ID in the summer, in June, we found that over 50%, just over 50% of Britons were in favour of it, and fewer than 1 in 5 were opposed to it. Fast forward to today, following the Prime Minister's announcement, and those numbers have almost completely flipped. We now find that 45% of the public are opposed to the introduction of digital ID, just 31% are in favour. So you've gone from plus 35 net support to minus 14, basically in a very short space of time following the Prime Minister announcing it.
How much does this have to do with the Prime Minister himself, in your opinion? Or is that a very cruel question?
I don't think it is. You know, we know that when governments are unpopular, that spreads onto other initiatives that they announce. And I do think there is a risk now that the government's unpopularity is such that it is influencing people's perceptions of policies like this. But I also think if you look at the comms last week on digital ID, opponents of digital ID had some very clear messages. They were very organised and they put them out. And it did seem like some of the government's messaging was just a little confused on what the purpose was. So I think it's a lesson that actually selling policy matters.
Yeah, no, that's right. And Luke, I saw a poll of yours out today with field work that was up to yesterday. So you covered the Labour conference kind of before the impact of the PM speech. And your poll suggesting that Labour had fallen during their conference week, and quite significantly.
Yes, this was polling largely over the weekend and a little bit on Monday, but before the speech. And what we found was that Labour was on 20%. That was down 5 points. They were actually tied with the Tories on 20%, and Reform UK up on 30%. So that's a 10-point lead. We know that Reform is now regularly seeing double-digit polling leads. And it gives you an indication of just how much the political landscape has changed over the past year.
Sure has. Luke Drill, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So digital ID, Diane, I mean, I assume you're in favour.
Of course I am.
Because you want to control us.
I'm in favour, and in fact, these, I don't know whether people can see that Mr Rees-Mogg is already here, but these two actually brought in compulsory ID to be able to vote. And they thought that was fine, and people had to...
but that wasn't digital. It wasn't...
Oh, so you... OK,
there's a big difference.
OK, if you're happy with paper ID... That suits me even more.
A passport is quite hard to fake.
I'd be very happy if it's going to be I mean, I'm in favour of ID cards, basically.
Right.
Whether it's digital or on paper, I'm much more relaxed about it. But it's very difficult for young people to prove who they are. They don't have a utility bill because they're not yet paying things, and they can't prove that they're 18. They can't open bank accounts. It's quite difficult for them. If it was just normal that people had an ID card and everyone had it, it would be much easier, whether it's to vote like you...
would you like it to sort of also include how many times you fly abroad to monitor your carbon usage?
And how many times I've been on GBNews? No, I don't think it needs, I don't think it needs any of that.
But it would have it, wouldn't it?
No,
it would have it. All your medical data would be there.
You could choose to have that.
I don't think so.
No, the ID card is who are you? What is your date of birth? And what is your nationality?
Well,
and that's what's needed. And I see nothing wrong with that.
I'm more of the school. I know Jacob and you, Nigel, have different views on this. And you're more on the civil libertarian side because you worry about what governments might do. But I've always been of the view, if you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't have there isn't a problem.
Yes, the old argument.
That's very much...
The old argument that leaves
you're going to say leaves the tyranny and all of that. But I don't think that's true. I just think with modern technology, you should be able to identify people easily. And I think digital ID cards do that probably more effectively.
It's for our own good, isn't it?
Well, if you can catch more criminals and stop illegal migrants, if you could,
what if we used them to limit?
Then absolutely right.
What if we used them to limit the number of flights we have every year?
So I would oppose that. I would oppose that. And you could do that some other way. If that's what some stupid government wanted to do, they could do it by saying to airlines, OK, you don't take Farage, or you can take a one-way ticket. We'll put you on a one-way ticket. Be completely different. Don't let him back in.
I'm sure the Prime Minister would
absolutely. So if a government wanted to do something stupid like that, it will do it.
Politics of it. This was the big pre-conference announcement coming from the Prime Minister, and it's bombing already. He's in big trouble, isn't he?
Well, there's two different things. You may need to do something that isn't popular because it's the right thing to do. And, you know, that is something I think that any Prime Minister should do. If he believes it's the right thing...
If your party support you in Parliament.
Well, yes, but that's what you will need to get it through.
Suggests that he has contaminated the issue effectively, because...
I thought what Trill said was interesting, because they told us that it would stop illegal working, when in fact we have a share code already. There's almost a form of digital ID for foreign workers already in this country. But this mis-selling was part of it.
Yes, but I'm afraid, you know, the Prime Minister is unpopular.
But the Prime Minister is part of it.
And as soon as he brands or supports something, the popularity of it in the country will go down. He's reached that level of distrust. And I think nothing he says, frankly, can have the traction that he wants.
But once we've got them, everyone will accept them. They'll become
I think in
very
5 years,
useful,
then,
and we'll wonder what the fuss was about. And we'll be able to show that Nigel Farage was wrong about it, you see.
Well, I tell you what, I saw vaccine passports during the pandemic. I don't want to live like that again. Citizens divided up into two different groups on the basis of a complete lie. I feel very strongly about this.
OK, but that's a separate issue from just having an ID card to get a job, to be identified in a crash or whatever it might be.
So for it to work in the crash and to be of value, your entire medical records would need to be there as well.
Just want to know who it is.
No.
Needs to be on it.
I honestly don't believe that for a moment. Jacob,
can I come in? I'm
please.
You are absolutely right. If we had had digital ID cards during COVID, they would have been used to monitor every time we went into a supermarket, every time we went outside, every COVID vaccine would have been on it, allowing us to access services or not. It would have been the biggest intrusion into our civil liberties, even worse than we had.
Is that what you would have done? You were in government at the time. Are you saying you would have done that?
I was constantly opposing
he was pushing back. To be fair to Jacob, he was pushing back.
I thought the ID for voting was ridiculous and unnecessary, but it's a fundamental change in the relationship between the citizen and the state. In this country, it's lawful to do anything that isn't specifically prohibited. This changes it. You can only do it if you've got your papers.
And I think I love Jacob's comment. He doesn't even trust a Conservative government. Let alone a Labour.
But it's an issue with the government. It's an issue with the governments, not with the technology. Okay. So if you have ID cards, if governments abuse them, then we should get rid of those governments.
Fear must be a very bad authoritarian government who decides who are enemies of the state. Look, I tell you what, we've had wonderful debates on a very wide range of topics. Thank you both.
Thank you
for coming in. We've agreed to disagree in a reasonably civilised manner. Jacob, what have you got coming up on State of the Nation?
Well, I'm going to be talking about debanking because 500,000 people were debanked last year, according to the FCA. You were almost debanked until they embarrassedly had to give up. And this is continuing to be a problem. And it's done not just because people are money laundering or whatever, it's because their views don't stack up. And it's a huge attack on freedom of speech because if you can't bank, you can't operate in a modern society.
I've lived there. I've lived there with the fear of it. I've lent my name to this campaign. I really have. Right, all good stuff. But before Jacob, let's find out what the all-important weather has for us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A storm is brewing out in the Atlantic. Storm Amy will arrive on Friday night and linger into Saturday morning. In the meantime, largely fine day to come tomorrow across the south like today, whereas further north there will again be a lot of cloud around, still producing outbreaks of rain through the night, especially in western Scotland. Those yellowy colours there suggesting the rain at times will be fairly heavy, quite breezy here too, but with the cloud and the breeze and the rain it will be a mild night. Further south with some breaks in the cloud, in rural spots we could dip down to single figures. Could also allow a bit of mist and fog to form for Thursday morning, but that should clear away. The rain, though, is going to linger across western Scotland. It's probably not too heavy through the morning, but it will pep up again later in the day. And we do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. The rain really building up through this week. Could cause a bit of disruption, the potential for some flooding. Patchy rain across Northern Ireland initially. That is also going to turn heavier. Most of England and Wales having a cloudy but dry start. As I mentioned, maybe some mist and fog through the morning rush hour, but it should clear away. The rain is going to get heavier through Northern Ireland during the morning and then through the afternoon spread into western Scotland. So again, the potential for some disruption from that wet weather. The Moray Firth may well stay completely dry and the rain will be fairly light and patchy in Edinburgh. England and Wales by and large staying dry, brightening up too with some sunshine. We could see 21 degrees Celsius, but we'll see some rain scooting through England and Wales Thursday night and into Friday, clearing away to reveal something a bit drier for a time. But look at this. This is Storm Amy, bringing rain into the northwest later on Friday, and the winds also continuing to strengthen. A windy night Thursday night, but it gets even windier on Friday night as Storm Amy moves in. Look at the isobars. There's a number of weather warnings in place. Do check out the Met Office warning for details on that. But this storm system could cause some problems into the weekend.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight.
Debanking has been happening on a very, very big scale across this country, and it is men and women running small businesses, above all, that are being targeted.
2 years ago, debanking became a modern scandal in Britain. Nigel Farage, a vicar, defence startups and campaigners against grooming gangs had their accounts shut down, not for crime, but for opinion. Nearly 500,000 people were debanked last year, and this must not be a political reason. Plus,
the Tories tried to overturn the fracking ban, led by Jacob Rees-Mogg. Remember him?
Well, I hope you do.